Hey guys, what's going on, dudes? It is David here. We are back with another video. Now, in this video, guys, we shall be discussing the guy in the jacket. His name is down here, but he drives for Alpine currently. It is Fernando Alonso. Now, when it comes to Fernando Alonso, what we'll be talking about here is basically just me giving my opinion on the move to Aston Martin next year, and how Alpine just royally messed this up. Because ever since Fernando Alonso's come back to Formula One and to Alpine, I honestly gotta say this: he's at, if it wasn't for mechanical difficulties and mechanical failures, Alonso would be outperforming where this car should be. This car should be at least mid-table, and this car is battling for fourth in the constructors. That is due down to Alonso helping out Esteban Ocon. If it wasn't for Fernando Alonso last year in the Hungarian Grand Prix, Esteban Ocon wouldn't have won that Grand Prix, because it was Fernando Alonso's defending against Lewis Hamilton that saved Esteban Ocon from getting passed by Lewis Hamilton eventually, because Lewis Hamilton was on the fresher tires, but he couldn't get past Fernando Alonso. And even this year, Fernando Alonso, I believe in Australia, put it on the podium. This guy, no matter what equipment he is in, he outperforms what the equipment should be. And I've seen a lot of people, when the move got announced, they said, oh, why is Alonso doing this? Why is Alonso doing this? It's a downgrade. You know, he's not going to be able to compete for wins. He's not going to be able to compete for points. Did you see how the Alpine was when Fernando Alonso started? The Alpine was basically in the situation Aston Martin's going to be next year. And who's to say that Aston Martin isn't going to perform well? Remember, the Mercedes cars are not going to be focusing on this year. The Mercedes cars are going to be focusing on next year. The Mercedes team is not going to be able to win the constructors, so I'm pretty sure they're going to put a major focus on 2023, building their cars, having their cars perform, because if all the Mercedes cars are performing well next year, and you gotta honestly say this, Fernando Alonso isn't a Mercedes-powered car. He's in the same, when it comes to engine-wise, he has the same engine as Lewis Hamilton. And I just gotta say this, for all the people that were saying, why is Fernando doing a multi-year deal with Aston Martin? Fernando Alonso has said multiple times that he plans on staying in Formula One for as long as he can. He wants to race for longer. He fell in love with the sport again after leaving for about a good 2 to 3 years. But how did Alpine mess up the situation? Alpine basically this whole year was based this whole point of like, this is going to be Fernando's final year in Formula One. He's going to retire at the end of the year, and then next year we can put Oscar Piastri in the car. Then Alonso decided, you know what? No, we're not. You're not gonna sacrifice me in order for a young kid. I'm gonna go to Aston Martin. And then Alpine announced Oscar Piastri. Then Piastri said that he would not be joining Alpine, and it ends up he goes to McLaren F1. So now next year, Alpine is scrambling to find a driver right now, because they thought their 2023 driver lineup was set. It was not set. Daniel Ricciardo would be a good option to join Alpine, but I think he's already said that he will not join Alpine. And to be honest, I can honestly say why, because Alpine's cars have not been reliable. I've looked at a majority of the races this season for Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso, I think last race in Singapore, he was battling for P5, P6, and he retired due to an engine issue. And Renault builds their own. Alpine's the only team that has Renault engines. Alpine's the only team that has Renault engines, so they can't put this blame on anyone else but themselves. Next year, Fernando Alonso, no matter what the situation is, he's going to be partnering Lance Stroll, and he's going to outperform Lance Stroll next year. But what I'm looking for next year, and I'm going to say this for 2023, Fernando Alonso and the Aston Martin racing team will outperform the Alpines. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this straight to camera again. Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll will outperform the Alpine racing team. And if Fernando Alonso finishes better than the Alpine racing team and anybody that drives for Alpine, what does that say to you about Fernando Alonso's driving skill and the way he can bring a car up? Because I'm expecting Fernando Alonso next year to be in a reliable car that doesn't have mechanical issues to at least be battling for the top 8 in the championship. Yes, you can say the Aston Martin does suck this year, okay. But when a car sucks, you're going to put the focus towards next year. Look at what Haas did for a majority part of last season, and then look how good Haas are this year. That can happen to Aston Martin. So in terms of this move for Fernando Alonso heading to Aston Martin, this is going to be a good move for Fernando Alonso. It's a multi-year deal, so if Fernando Alonso gets to stay in the sport longer, I get to cheer for him longer after he retired the first time, and now he's back. And this just means that Alpine is going to be in a bad situation because they lost their best driver they've ever had. Remember, they used to be known as Renault. Their best driver that they've ever had. A driver that is the reason why Esteban Ocon won a race last year. And a driver that, if it wasn't for mechanical issues this year, would be outperforming Esteban Ocon right now. Fernando Alonso is one of the greatest F1 drivers of all time. He's moved to Aston Martin now. Like I said, he's going to be a reliable engine, and I'm expecting big things from Fernando Alonso.